Good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss continuation of the monoclonal antibody. The topic of discussion is applications of monoclonal antibody. In yesterday's class we have seen how monoclonal antibodies are produced in a large scale. Once the monoclonal antibodies of your interest is ready, you can use it for various purposes. The various applications of monoclonal antibodies are, yesterday I told you one or two examples. One is in diagnosis. Second one is in therapeutic purpose. Third one, it can be used in drug delivery and it is used to dissolve the blood clot. And the last one is in protein purification. We can use monoclonal antibody. First one, we are going to see how we can use this monoclonal antibody for diagnosis. So the first example what we are going to take is in the cancer diagnosis. So monoclonal antibodies are used widely in cancer diagnosis. And nowadays the monoclonal antibodies are used for the diagnostic purpose. When they are using that technique is known as the diagnostic imaging. Diagnostic imaging. Okay, the use of monoclonal antibody to detect cancer, that technique is known as the diagnostic imaging. Now what do you mean by diagnostic imaging? Diagnostic imaging wherein the monoclonal antibodies will be linked with a radioactive isotope. So you know the monoclonal antibodies, say for example, we are going to identify whether a person has liver cancer. The antigen which will be looking for in the case of liver cancer is alpha fetoprotein. So normally alpha fetoprotein is a fetal protein. Once the fetal stage is over, the alpha fetoprotein level will be decreased below 20 nanogram. Once a person gets the liver cancer, the alpha fetoprotein level will be very high in the serum. In the serum content, alpha fetoprotein will be very high. So you can detect the alpha fetoprotein in the case of liver cancer with the help of this diagnostic imaging. For that purpose, what you need to do is, you have to prepare a monoclonal antibody. We are taking the example of alpha fetoprotein detection. The similar process will be used for the production of other monoclonal antibodies also. So clearly you have to listen and understand the concept of production of monoclonal antibody. So yesterday we have seen the production step. What is the first step of monoclonal antibody production? Immunization. So here we are going to look for alpha fetoprotein. So what is the antigen which will be injected into the animal? Alpha fetoprotein. So alpha fetoprotein or the you can call it as a direct original alpha fetoprotein you can inject, or a molecule which is structurally similar to alpha fetoprotein will be injected into the animal model system, and the antibody production happens. Once the antibody production happens, you need to separate the spleen, separate the B cell, fuse the B cell with myeloma cell, you get a hybridoma, then go for hat selection. Once after getting the hybridoma, by hat selection method you have to screen them, then propagate them and produce the monoclonal antibody in large scale. So now the monoclonal antibody is ready. So this is how all the monoclonal antibodies are synthesized. Say for example, if you are going to detect carcinoembryonic antigen, the antigen which you will be injecting into the animal model system will be carcinoembryonic antigen. If you are looking for prostate specific antigen, then the antigen which you will be injecting into in the first step of immunization will be PSA. So it depends on the antigen you inject, antibodies will be synthesized in the B cell, and you are going to fuse that B cell with the myeloma for the production of hybridoma to produce monoclonal antibody. So I think all of you are clear with that part. Now you can use this monoclonal antibody. The process is known as diagnostic imaging, wherein monoclonal antibodies will be tagged with a radioactive isotope. Here the radioactive isotope which is used is iodine 131. Okay, into the cancer patient, say for example if you are looking for alpha fetoprotein or carcinoembryonic antigen, that particular monoclonal antibody will be ready. That antibody you need to inject into the patient. So when you are injecting into the patient, remember that the monoclonal antibody will be conjugated with a radioactive isotope. What is that radioactive isotope which we are using? Iodine 131. So when you inject this iodine 131 into the patient, the monoclonal, since it is a monoclonal antibody, they are very specific for the particular antigen what you are looking for, either carcinoembryonic antigen or alpha fetoprotein. They go there, bind there, and once after binding you can see the emission. Okay, so since it is a radioactive isotope, you can see the radioactivity. You cannot see actually, you can detect the radioactivity by using a technique known as scintillography. Okay, scintillography is a technique which is used for detecting the scintillography. Scintillography is a technique which is used for detecting the radioactivity. Okay, all are clear with that? The use of monoclonal antibody is used in diagnosis of different cancer. In the method is known as diagnostic imaging. What do you do in diagnostic imaging? Monoclonal antibody will be tagged with a radioactive isotope. The commonly used one is iodine-131. Inject into the patient if they have that particular antigen. Monoclonal antibody binds there and the radioactivity will be seen. So if the radioactivity is seen, that means they have the cancer. Okay. So if hepatic liver cancer is there, you have to look for alpha fetoprotein. If it is tumor detection, you have to look for carcinoembryonic antigen. Prostate cancer, it is prostate specific antigen. Okay. So once the monoclonal antibody binds there, you can see the radioactivity. Okay, the radioactivity is detected by a process called as the scintillography. Okay, so in the scintillography, which is also called as SPECT, you must have studied in cancer. SPECT is single photon emission computed tomography. Okay, that is a technique which is used for detecting the emission of radioactivity by the radioactive isotope. And this is in the case of cancer. So myeloma protein, plasma cell cancer, this I have told you while discussing about the antibody structure. In the case of plasma cell cancer, myeloma protein, excess of myeloma protein will be there. You know what is myeloma protein? I told you, if you remember, myeloma proteins are the one which will be those are the antibodies which will be synthesized in excess amount. They will not be able to join together. Thereby, the light chain proteins will be excreted through the urine. Those proteins are known as the myeloma protein, which is also called as the Bence-Jones protein. So that protein can be detected, and when you are using a monoclonal antibody to detect that, you can identify whether that person has plasma cell tumor. Alpha fetoprotein can be detected, or that is used for that particular antigen is used for the diagnosis of liver cancer. Alpha fetoprotein is produced by the fetal cells. After birth, the level of the alpha fetoprotein reduces to 20 nanogram per ml. Level of alpha fetoprotein elevated in liver cancer, cirrhosis and hepatitis. So this can be identified with the help of monoclonal antibody. And the carcinoembryonic antigen that will give you an idea whether a person has a tumor. If they have tumor, carcinoembryonic antigen will be there in the serum. And in the case of prostate cancer, there will be prostate specific antigen. Okay. Now, one common monoclonal antibody is there which will recognize all the carcinomas in human, that is B72.3. So this is a B72.3, that is a monoclonal antibody which is used for detecting the carcinoma. And that's all about the cancer. Second one, monoclonal antibodies are used in the pregnancy. You can detect whether the female is pregnant by using monoclonal antibody. Those monoclonal antibodies will be specific for HCG. What is HCG? Human chorionic gonadotropin. So if a woman is pregnant, in the urine, human chorionic gonadotropin will be there. And you know that pregnancy kit will be there. No? In that kit, when you check it, you can see that blue color line formation. That is because of the monoclonal antibody. So when you put a drop of urine there, if human chorionic gonadotropin is there in the urine, that will bind with the monoclonal antibody, and then an enzyme substrate reaction happens. Thereby, you can see that blue color line formation. Okay, so pregnancy kit, we can use monoclonal antibody. Any hormonal disorder can be checked with the help of monoclonal antibody. And sexually transmitted disease, STD stands for sexually transmitted disease. Sexually transmitted disease diagnosis is also with the help of monoclonal antibody. So monoclonal antibodies are used in biochemical analysis to detect cancer, pregnancy, hormonal disorder, especially the thyroid hormone, and infectious diseases such as sexually transmitted diseases or bacterial and fungal infection can be detected easily with the help of monoclonal antibody. So with the advent of this monoclonal antibody or antibody based diagnosis purpose, now the COVID-19 test is also with the help of the antibody. That is a very quick one. Otherwise you have to culture it and then you have to look for some of the viral protein. So many steps are there. But once you have the antibody, monoclonal antibody, it is very easy to detect the infection or the disease. That is the advantage of monoclonal antibody. Now the next one is it is used in therapeutic purpose. So that's all about the diagnosis. There are various list, big list is there, but these are the important aspect. And when you are reading, if you get some other important points, you can include those points also. And the next one what we are going to see is the use of monoclonal antibody in therapeutic purpose. What do you mean by therapeutic purpose? You are going to treat a disease with the help of the monoclonal antibody. Okay. So in that case, the first one is the monoclonal antibodies are used to destroy cancer cells. How can we use this monoclonal antibody to destroy the cancer cell? Imagine that you have the cancer tumor is there, cancerous cells are there. As I told you earlier, the cancer cells will have the cancerous antigens will be expressed on the surface. If they have, all the cancer cells will not have the cancerous antigen expression. If the cancer cell has the antigen expression on the surface, we can use monoclonal antibody. Those monoclonal antibodies will bind to the cancer antigen. Once the monoclonal antibody binds there, the cells will be taken up for the phagocytosis by macrophages. That process is called as the antibody dependent ADCC. Okay, ADCC stands for antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. So what do you mean by antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity? When an antigen is occupied by antibody, or when an antibody binds with an antigen and forms an antigen antibody complex, the complement activation happens and thereby those antigen antibody complex will be ready for the phagocytosis process. That process is called as the antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. So once either the phagocytosis happens or the cells will be killed by the either complement mediated lysis, complement mediated phagocytosis process happens, or the cells will be recognized by the natural killer cells. You know that there are natural killer cells, or these cancerous cells will be identified by the T cytotoxic cells, and thereby the cell will be killed. Okay, so this is what happens in the case of therapeutic purpose. The first one is to destroy the cancer cell. You can use a monoclonal antibody. You need to target the antigen which is present on the cancerous cells. Monoclonal antibody binds there. Once it binds there, it will be killed either by the phagocytosis process, or the cells will be identified by the natural killer cells or T cytotoxic cells, and the cancerous cells will be destroyed. Okay. Now the next method is to prevent the transplant rejection. And you know what is transplantation? The implantation of an organ from a donor to the recipient is known as the transplantation. So when you go for transplantation, this I have told you under major histocompatibility complex. When you go for transplantation, you have to make sure that the major histocompatibility complex matching between the donor and the recipient is proper. If the matching is not there, there is a chance of transplanted organ rejection. So we can prevent the rejection of the transplanted organ by using the monoclonal antibody. Now you have to remember one thing, the rejection of the transplanted organ is mediated by the T lymphocyte, especially on the T lymphocyte. You know that T helper cells, it has two receptors, TCR and CD4. T cytotoxic cells, they have two receptors which is called as TCR and the CD8. And along with that, the T cells, it has one more receptor complex which is called as the CD3 receptor. This CD3 receptor, that is the one which will be mediating the rejection process. Now we have to target the CD3 receptor. The monoclonal antibody which is commercially available to block the CD3 receptor is called as the OKT3. So this is a commercially available monoclonal antibody. After the transplantation, when you inject this monoclonal antibody into the patient, this OKT3 monoclonal antibody will go and bind to the CD3 receptor which is present on the T cell. So once the CD3 receptor is blocked by the monoclonal antibody, it cannot mediate the rejection process. Clear? So monoclonal antibodies can be used for to prevent the transplant rejection. How we can use the monoclonal antibody? For that purpose, we need to use a commercially available monoclonal antibody which will target a receptor called as the CD3 receptor. What is that monoclonal antibody? OKT3. So once after the transplantation, instead of taking so much of immunosuppressive drugs, you can use this monoclonal antibody injection. When you use this monoclonal antibody injection, this OKT3 will bind to the CD3 receptor which is present on the T cytotoxic cell and T helper cell, thereby it cannot identify the transplanted organ. Okay, so that is a method to prevent the transplant rejection. Another one is it is used to treat HIV infection. HIV infection you will be studying in detail under immunodeficiency chapter, but I will tell you one important aspect to remember under this particular process. HIV that will be infecting the T helper cells, because T helper cells, they have a receptor called as the CD4 receptor. Just now I told you CD4 receptor, and along with that it has a TCR. Now CD4 receptor is the one where the human immunodeficiency virus will be binding. Okay. Now once a person gets the infection, you can prevent the spread of HIV infection from throughout the body by using a monoclonal antibody, wherein a monoclonal antibody will be prepared which will bind to the CD4 receptor. So you can see here the T helper cells, it has the CD4 receptor. You can use a monoclonal antibody. Those monoclonal antibody will block the CD4 receptor. So when the monoclonal antibodies, when it blocks the CD4 receptor, the HIV, it cannot bind to the T helper cell for the further infection process to happen. Okay, so monoclonal antibody against the CD4 receptor of the T lymphocyte, because human immunodeficiency virus, it has a glycoprotein called GP120, that is the outermost cell surface glycoprotein. It has high affinity for the CD4 receptor of the T lymphocyte. The monoclonal antibody, when you are injecting into the AIDS patient, that they will bind to the CD4 receptor, so that GP120 of the HIV cannot bind to the CD4 receptor. Thereby, the spread of the disease can be controlled. Okay, so throughout the body, the infection or the viral multiplication can be prevented by using a monoclonal antibody which will block the CD4 receptor. Why we are using a monoclonal antibody which can block the CD4 receptor? Because CD4 is the region where the glycoprotein 120 of the HIV binds and the infection takes place. So when you block it, the HIV cannot further replicate. Okay, so that is the one which is coming under the to treat the HIV infection. Now the next one is very interesting one, which you would have studied under cancer biology paper. That is, monoclonal antibodies are used as immunotoxins. Okay, so immunotoxins, the other name of immunotoxin is, immunotoxins are also called as magic bullets. What is the other name of immunotoxin? So now I am discussing about this second point, monoclonal antibodies as immunotoxin. Immunotoxins are known as magic bullets. Okay, so magic, why it is called as magic bullet? Because it can target, or they are very specific for a particular antigen. This can be used to treat the malignant T cells in the patient suffering from T cell leukemia, and it can be used for treating various cancer. Okay, now how to prepare a monoclonal antibody which is cytotoxic? For that purpose, we have to use a plant protein which is called as the ricin. Ricin is a plant protein which is used for preparing the immunotoxin. Immunotoxin, that means you have to understand one thing. We are making a monoclonal antibody which can bind to a particular antigen, and the monoclonal antibody will be tagged with a toxin. Okay, so when this monoclonal antibody binds to the cell where the particular antigen is there, toxin will be released and the cell will be killed. That is why it is called as the magic bullet. Now, what is that toxin which we are using here? We are using a plant toxin which is called as the ricin. Have you heard of castor plant? Castor oil, you must have heard about castor oil. So the castor plant, it has a toxin called as the ricin. Okay, ricin is a cytotoxic protein derived from the castor oil plant. It composed of two polypeptide chain, A and B. The ricin polypeptide, it consists of two proteins. What are those two proteins? One is A, another one is the B. Okay, so we will take the structure in this way. One is A, another one is the B. This is the B. This is the toxic part of the ricin. Okay, toxic part of the ricin is the A polypeptide chain. The function of the B polypeptide chain is this will help in binding of this particular toxin to the cell. Okay, B polypeptide chain will help in the binding to the cell surface, whereas A is the toxic part. Now when the B chain bind to the cell surface, B chain of the resin when it binds to the cell surface, and once after binding, this will facilitate A chain to enter the cell and inhibit the function of the ribosome. That means the protein synthesis will be inhibited. Thereby resin can be subjected to whenever people consume resin, that will be very toxic to the people. How that toxicity happens? When they consume this resin toxin, the B polypeptide chain of the resin that binds to the cell surface, and once it binds there, it releases the A chain. The H polypeptide chain enter into the cell and it will inhibit the ribosome. The protein synthesis process will be inhibited. Thereby, the cell will die. So this is the normal mechanism of action of the resin. Now to create an immunotoxin, we have to go for an oxidation process and separate the A chain and the B, and discard the B. We don't want the B polypeptide chain. B is discarded. Instead of B, the A chain will be linked with the monoclonal antibody. Okay, so this is the monoclonal antibody which is linked with, the structure will be like this. A is retained. Why A is retained? Because that is the toxic part. This will be linked to the monoclonal antibody. This is the monoclonal antibody. Okay, so this structure will be like this. Monoclonal antibody which is linked with the toxin, which is derived from the castor plant. Okay, now resin can be subjected to oxidation and separate the A and B polypeptide chain. The toxic A chain can be conjugated with a monoclonal antibody that is specific to the cancer cell. The tumor-specific monoclonal antibody bind with the cancer cell, and A chain block the protein synthesis and lead to the death of the cancer cells. So when you inject, say for example, this is a prostate-specific monoclonal antibody which is specific for PSA, prostate-specific antigen. So when you inject this one, they will move to the prostate gland, bind to the prostate-specific antigen and release the toxin, and the toxin enter inside the cell and inhibit the protein synthesis. Thereby the cell will be killed. Okay, this is called as the targeted therapy. Instead of using your chemotherapy, radiation therapy and all, which will harm all the normal cells also, we can use this targeted therapy with the help of the monoclonal antibody. They will directly target the toxin which is conjugated to the monoclonal antibody to the target or to the cancer cell. The toxin will be released directly. So that's all about the therapeutic purpose, to destroy the cancer cell, and it can act as immunotoxin to prevent the transplant rejection and to treat the HIV infection. How we can use it to destroy the cancer cell? We have to use a monoclonal antibody. When it binds to the cell, antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity happens and the cell will be destroyed. Immunotoxin, just now I explained, the resin toxin is used, which will be conjugated to the monoclonal antibody, and you can use it for killing the cancer cell. And the third one is to prevent the transplant rejection by blocking the CD3 receptor by using a monoclonal antibody called as OKT3. And the fourth one is to treat HIV infection, wherein we can use monoclonal antibody to block the CD4 receptor. So when you block the CD4 receptor, the HIV, it cannot infect further. Okay, we are completely blocking the CD4 receptor, thereby the glycoprotein 120 of the virus, it cannot bind to the surface. The other three applications are, it is used in drug delivery, it is used to dissolve the blood clot, and in the protein purification, which I will discuss in the next class. Thank you.